Welcome back. Episode 16 of your Bucket List Accelerator, where we sit here, we talk about financial topics of the day. We get ready together in the morning because that's that calm time in the morning. And we can take that time to do some learning, thinking about our financial freedom journey, how to get there a little faster, hopefully. And we do it all with the calm, right? Because finance makes us anxious. Why not do it while we're doing something calming, like getting ready together in the morning? So, for our topics today, we're going to be talking about some different investments that might be entering the 401k scene pretty soon. Congress is working on it, so you know that might take a while, but it's worth having a discussion. Also, we're going to talk about those pesky monthly subscription fees that are in there. Do they matter? We will discuss that. And the mid-year confidence check that Employer Benefit Research Institute just put out about workers' feelings about their pace towards retirement or financial freedom. So we're going to discuss that as well. It's not good news, but we're going to discuss how you can get through that if you're feeling that same pinch that a lot of people are. Again, doing all of that while we're filtering out the noise, enjoying our time together, and playing with some makeup. So the makeup today, a lot of L'Oreal stuff. So I've got the tinted skin tint that they have that's been out for a long time, plus the newer bronzing stick. I also have from the same company, from Lancome. This is their face palette. I believe this was a holiday edition, but I've got mainly these two colors on my eyes today, and I think it looks really nice. Also on my cheeks today, I have from Clinique the Black Honey Pop, and I've got the translucent Say powder. And I have, if I say and one more time, I swear, right? Kosas Soulgazer as my mascara, and Violet FR as my lip stain, which is very hydrating and I like a lot. Plus, I've got things from Morphe, Sephora Collection, Soshe, Benefit, Makeup by Mario, NYX, you name it, I probably have it in here. So sit back, grab your iced coffee, or get ready with me in the morning as we jump into episode number 16. All right, let's get into it. Another get ready with me while we talk about some finance. I have my coffee again because I'm still tired from last week. It just doesn't seem to slow down, right? Once maybe work slows down a little bit, then something else picks up. It always seems to happen, right? So I am a little sluggish, but that's okay. We're moving forward, just like women do. We always move forward. So we've got some great topics today. I'm really excited to get into some of them. Just as a little sneak peek, next week we are going to be talking about IPOs, particularly the big one that came out recently. I wanted to kind of see what was going to happen with it is SpaceX. So we are going to talk about that kind of stuff next week. So make sure you tune in because next week is going to answer some of your questions about, SpaceX and all that stuff. We've already talked about it a little bit, but I just thought it'd be good to do that. So I'm going to start with primer and with a lip treatment, and then we'll get started on the topics. So again, busy week, but it's okay. I'm using this Essence Jelly Grip primer. I have used it in the past before. So I'm going to just use that mainly on my T-zone. But busy week. We're coming up on 4th of July. This will probably post after 4th of July, but that's where I'm sitting right now. Not quite yet. We've got another week or so. But, Prime Day is going on, all that stuff's happening. So all this stuff in anticipation for you to spend your money with people, right before the holidays. So we'll talk about that too a little bit. I'm kind of curious I'm going to give you my opinion on a couple of things. And I shop with the best of them. My husband is always saying, why is there another Amazon package here? What the heck are you ordering? And you can see that from the makeup I have. I have lots of different makeup. I can create lots of different looks and stuff. Way too much makeup, way too many things. But, I think I've noticed an interesting pattern when it comes to shopping. So if I have time, I will push that in. So awesome. So push that in towards the end. I don't to go too long. I'm going to go in with the Rock lip treatment. I don't know if I can get it without the glare on it. This is the one thing with doing, there it is, doing it in natural light is that there's always a little bit of glare. And so this is a plumping treatment, but I have found that it's very hydrating too. And so you don't need very much, but I don't really need, I'm pretty happy with my lips right now. I would say knock on wood, because you'll get older and then they'll start to dissipate. But I'm not really, I need plumping for volume in my lips or anything, but I like having the moisture on it, and I like how kind of red they become, which seems weird, but I enjoy it. So I've been enjoying that. So okay, let's get going with, actually I kind of fibbed. I'm going to get going with the foundation first, and then I'll get into the first topic. So we've got some different, I'll give you, well, you kind of got a highlight from my intro, but this is the L'Oreal True Match Nude Tinted Serum. I hadn't used this in quite a bit. So I'm going to take the It Cosmetic number 7. Is this all? Yeah, this sunk in. My primer sunk in enough. And then I'm going to take this out. This I have in 3-4 light medium, the foundation. The dropper is not my favorite. I will tell you, L'Oreal, I don't like it. If you're listening, I'm sure they're listening to me, but it's not my favorite. You change your other foundation. I think that's just called the True Match one. And so this is the color of that. So I'm going to go in, just put a little bit, just in the red, more in the red areas that I need it. And then get going. I have a pesky hair on my face that I cannot seem to get rid of. Every time I flick it off, it's right back there. So I'll need a little bit more. Oh, actually, I'm going to try another method that I saw. I think it was Nikki LaRose did it, where she was saying you put it on with your hand, with your fingers, and you're going to get better coverage in the areas you need. Then you take a brush and do that with them. I would say with skin tints more than anything, is what she was saying. And I've been doing it, and she's right. It just covers a little bit. So, awesome. This is why you listen to the pros on some stuff, right? So, awesome. Going a little lighter on my forehead just because I've got some dryness in my forehead today, particularly. So I try to go a little lighter on my forehead when that's going on. So, okay. Great. Just a light coverage. Perfect. Okay. So let's get into the first subject. And I'm going to make sure the top's on that one, the foundation. Okay. So the first topic we're going to go into is a push for private assets in 401ks. So there's been a little bit of a shift going on. Apparently, there's a bipartisan push for this in the House and Senate in Congress for that. I'm just adjusting my mic a little bit. And what it's doing is it's making headways to open traditional 401ks and similar workplace retirement plans to private equity and private credit alternative investments. We've talked about private credit. Private equity is exactly what it sounds, which is, investing in private companies. Now, they are doing this a lot. A lot of people believe, and I even heard this on one of the podcasts. I think it was the All In podcast I was listening to. It might have been this week, where they were saying how it's not fair that the average person has to wait until like a SpaceX or something comes on the markets, goes public, in order for the average person to be able to invest in it. They themselves are able to invest in companies that are private. And so isn't that something that all Americans should have? So this is kind of addressing that same concern. Now, I will tell you, having done this for 15 years with people, I don't work with super high net worth people. Of course, I work with, average Americans. I like working with average Americans. I like working with people and helping them get to their financial freedom. That's my passion. So that's who I work with a lot. And I work with a lot of executives and people who are, VPs or chairs of things and stuff. So that's who I tend to work with. So this might be different if you are high net worth, or if you work with an advisor who tends to be high net worth. They're going to view this differently than I am, most likely. But the reason that this is getting attention, or the shiny object, is that believing that adding high flying alternative assets into standard retirement accounts is going to help with gains in 401ks. It's going to give people opportunities they didn't have, all that kind of stuff. And I think that that is a really noble want. I think that's wonderful that bipartisanship is going to want this for the American people. I think that's great. However, you've got lobbyists in there now, which we all know it doesn't matter what side you sit on, lobbyists screw up everything. So you've got lobbyists in there, you've got a turbulent time in the private credit markets that we've talked about. So while offering these things seems like a great, unique diversification, they have a significant higher cost, lower liquidity, much higher risk than people are used to. I would say most people just let their stuff go into the target date fund that's pre-chosen for them. That might not be the right thing for them, but that's what most people do, unless they have an advisor helping them and telling them not to do that. But sometimes that's the right thing for them to be in. So you've got that. You've got, a complex investment in there that sometimes I think people don't understand, and they don't know how to evaluate it with their risk tolerance. And I would say, majority of people aren't working with advisors. So do I see this as a good thing to have private equity and private credit alternative investments available in 401ks, and this push that's happening for that? I'm very torn on that. And I will tell you, I think that this could be a huge problem down the line, mainly because I think that I just did a whole video on and it probably won't come out for a little bit, because I do videos ahead of time and get them approved through compliance and everything, and then they go out maybe a month or two later. So it probably isn't going to be out for a little bit. But when it is, I'll link it in here. But on assumptions, in the assumption trap, assuming something, filling in that gap of unknown knowledge, and then possibly filling it in with incorrect information, and then making a decision and an action based off of that, and how that really can hurt you. And I would say, and part of the solution to that is slowing down and doing your due diligence. And just the same way that I am a fiduciary, I have to do things in the best interest of the client. Because I am a fiduciary, I slow things down and I really take a look at what the client is trying to accomplish, where does this fit for them, all of that stuff. And I love that about our industry and the fiduciary side of it, is that I have to do that. And it's better because I'm able to make better recommendations. And that's the whole point of it. Everybody needs to do due diligence. And when it comes to finance, because people don't like it, they don't like talking about it, the majority. There are some people that love it, but there are a lot of people who don't. And because of that, people will make these rash decisions, and they'll say, well, that did really well last year, so I'll just buy that. And that's what can happen in a stock. But it also, and just as a reminder, there's no individual stocks in 401ks traditionally. I mean, if you have other types of accounts, if you have a SEP or something like that that's being managed separately, that's different. But I'm just talking about a 401k. I've never seen a stock in there unless it's company stock, like your company's stock in there. I've never seen like buying a certain stock in a 401k. That's not usually traditional because the 401k has a fiduciary element as well. And your boss, if you're part of a 401k, has an obligation to make sure that what's in your 401k is vetted, has done their due diligence in making sure. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be risk-free. That's not what that means. But what it means is that they have done their due diligence. And oftentimes the business owner will hand that off to the company that's running the 401k. So like an Empower or Fidelity, those are the kind of the two big ones, but there's Vanguard, there's plenty of companies out there that run it, and they take on that fiduciary responsibility. So now we've got big players involved with this too. And because of that fiduciary element in a 401k, they traditionally choose like mutual funds and things that can't get traded real rapidly. You're not supposed to day trade your 401k. So they don't tend to put stocks in there. I've never seen it. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I have never seen that. So now putting in these private equity and private credit alternatives, obviously I believe that they will be in a wrapper of some kind of mutual fund or ETF, most likely a mutual fund, I would think. And the difference, just so if you don't know, so both are, and I will get back into the makeup, I promise, but this is really important. So both are funds. Both have lots of different stocks within the one fund. So you buy the one fund and it's got lots of different stocks based off of what that fund is supposed to do. So if it's, bond fund, American bond fund, then it's going to have American companies' bonds in there. If it's, a dividend, mutual fund or ETF, then it's going to have dividend paying traditionally, because none of those are guaranteed, but traditional dividend paying companies in that fund. So that's how those are put together. And the difference between a mutual fund and an ETF is a mutual fund, you put in your trade and it settles at the end of the day. So you really don't day trade those, which I don't believe in day trading at all anyhow. But you really, you have to wait. You put in your sale and you wait, and it kind of gives you your price on those shares that you sold or bought at the end of the day once everything settles. An ETF's different. It trades like a stock. So you sell it, that's the price you get. You buy it, that's the price you get. You don't wait till the end of the day. So ETFs do, and they tend to be a little bit cheaper, ETFs, because you don't have this calculation at the end of it and all that stuff going on. So 401ks have moved a lot from mutual funds to ETF funds, majority. There's usually a mix, though, in there, I would say, when I look at people's 401ks and stuff. But there is these elements in there, like this fiduciary element and the other things that I would think that the private equity, private credit, alternative kind of investments are going to be wrapped into an ETF fund, a mutual fund that is going to be managed by somebody else. So if you're Vanguard or it's a Vanguard fund, it's going to be managed by the Vanguard manager of that fund. And so that does make me feel a little bit better that you do have a professional manager. You're not buying, individual private equities, most likely in this. I'm guessing that that's what's going to happen. I would need to see more information to see if I think this is a good idea or not. I will say, though, there has to be a big warning sign. Like people are saying, you should put a big warning sign on if something has too much, sugar on it or something like that on packaging. I feel like that needs to happen with these kind of funds too, because I think people are going to not know the risks that they're getting into. And if the private credit, let's say, we've talked about illiquidity and things like that with the private credit in the past, obviously you're not going to be taking that on as the consumer of a fund. The fund that bought that is going to take on the illiquidity element of it. So if it's in an ETF, you'll sell your ETF shares at that moment and you get your redemption, price. You'll get your cash back from that right away in mutual fund at the end of the day. So that's going to be interesting as well. I don't know enough about these funds to know if I think this is a good idea or not. I do think there needs to be a big warning though on them, that these are not your traditional, S&P 500 fund or, high dividend paying fund or something like that. So it will be interesting. I mean, there is definitely this push to make sure that everything that is available for the ultra wealthy is now available for everyone. And I think that is a great push. I just think that when you do something for the masses, you have to make sure that you've got your guardrails up to some extent. You don't want to take away people's opportunity because that's not the point of the whole thing. But you do want to make sure that you're doing this safely. So, all right, I've done a lot of talking and not a lot of makeup, so I apologize. But I think that that's really important. And I haven't quite decided how I felt about that, which I think is a good thing to emphasize. So I've got this Lancome palette. This is called the Adventurous palette. I believe this is still on their site. It's so pretty. Gosh, it's so pretty. Anyhow, this is their palette. I believe this was their holiday palette, but I don't think this sold real well. So, but I'm going to take a little bit of this brown and a little bit of this green and just kind of create a kind of quick look that way. With it, I'm going to take the BK Beauty 202. And just as an FYI, these are eyeshadows. You can use them as blushes. The only thing with the blush, this blush in particular, but the other one too, is it's really, it's got glitter particles in it, like a almost like a golden glitter in it, which is pretty, but I don't know if I want that on my cheeks. I tried it the other day and I don't know. It seems a little juvenile. I am almost 45. So I'm going to kind of stick to this as more of an eyeshadow palette, I think. But it is really pretty. I'm sure that's a gorgeous color in your eyes, I would imagine. But it's supposed to be you're supposed to be able to use it for, basically your whole face if you wanted to. And obviously that bronzer is way too dark for a lot of people. It's not too dark for other people, of course. But so I'm going to start with the BK Beauty 202 brush, just kind of a, and there is a lot of fallout with this palette, I've noticed. So just start kind of defining the crease area a bit. Oh, maybe I should have used, it's too late now. I was going to use the Sigma, where is that? Sigma eye base. Oh, here it is. Sigma eye base. Maybe I should. I kind of remember, well, let's see how this works. I kind of remember this having a little bit of creasing, which is kind of rare for me with an eyeshadow powder palette, but it did, I believe it did crease a little bit on me, which was strange. It must be the shimmer in it. But so this is the Sigma eyeshadow base primer. I think this is in light. Is that what it's called? Persuade is the color. It's light. It's the lighter color. So, and then I'm going to take some powder. This is going to be my powder, the Say bronzed or Say baked powder, just a translucent powder. So I'll just take that same brush and just pat some on. This is translucent, so there's no color. It's a really nice, soft texture. This really makes me want to get their bronzer. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about their bronzer because it looks so orangey in videos. So anyhow, okay. So I'm going to take that brown shade again and just go into the right above the crease here. Oh, now I got too much on. Okay, well, that'll be interesting. But anyhow, so I'm happy with this purchase. I just don't think it's necessarily the face palette I'm going to use. So anyhow, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on 401k choices. I know a lot of people that I talk to are kind of irritated. Some people are like just fine with the choices that they have in there because they just kind of, like I said, stick with the fund that automatically they get put into, which is another part of the fiduciary element of this, is that you do, the reason that you're automatically put into something is it's a fiduciary element in terms of they don't want you sitting in cash. If you don't choose something, it's got to go into someplace because then they would be liable for it. So that's why it automatically goes into some kind of fund. I believe actually that's why. It might be a little off on that, but that's what I was explained when I started this industry. So I think that's one of the things that is interesting, that will be interesting to see what changes about that. Just kind of building up that brown color here. But I know a lot of people are either indifferent to the to their thing, and then I'm going to take the green color here. I guess it goes with my outfit today. We'll see. And just kind of tap that in. This green color is so pretty. This is why I bought the palette. It's just such a unique kind of mossy green. It's so pretty. I don't know if you can. This is the color though. It's just so gorgeous. So I just don't have any other colors like this. It's a very pigmented shadow, so just keep that in mind. But all right, I got enough on my hand and my fingers, so I'll get that off, and then I'm just going to kind of blend here. So anyhow, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Like I said, some people are just so unhappy with the choices that are in their 401ks, and others are like, they're fine. So, you're just going to always have those two sides of it. And then I'm going to take the BK Beauty 205 brush and just take that translucent powder and kind of just blend with that to try to help with that. So, oh gosh, gone a long time and I haven't even moved on to the second topic. But yeah, I think it's an interesting side. I don't know how quickly this is all going to move though, because I would imagine the 401k companies are a little afraid of this too, because it's their liability that they're taking on as well, because of that fiduciary element that they often will take with the business owner. Okay, I'm just going to take a little bit of this and just kind of blend it here, just to blend out the shadow so it doesn't look so harsh. Okay, excellent. And then I will take that later and put some. Yeah. Oh, I didn't have an eyeshadow. Oh, no, I do. Here it is. Then I'm going to go in for the Sephora 12-hour, one of their eyeliner pencils here. This is in Tiramisu. It's just a really beautiful brown, really sticks in the waterline well. So the next topic, before I do this, let me jump into the next topic. Next topic is mid-year consumer spending, mid-year, so we're going to hear all these reports, right? An audit reveals that the average American is now spending over $220 a month on their digital and monthly digital subscriptions. And a lot of them they're not even using and don't even realize they have them. Nearly 40% of those users are paying for services that they actually haven't actively used in 90 days. So there's my point there. So the shiny object, and you hear this everywhere, which drives me crazy, and you hear this from the influencers online and everything. You know how I feel about them. that, these $10 thing, you hear it all the time. I hear it all the time about, don't worry about your latte. Your $5 latte is going to make no difference in the big scheme of things. Yes, it does. It does make a difference. They always tell you that this $10 or $15 is no big deal and it doesn't impact your, financial freedom journey. And, you got to focus on the big things, stop focusing on the little things. No, you focus on everything. Pointing at you with my eyeliner pencil. You have to focus on everything when it comes to your financial freedom. It is about taking control of your money, and you get to buy what you want to buy. And these unconscious purchases like this are definitely hurting. $220 a month. Let's say you're saving $400 a month in your 401k or your whatever accounts you're putting it into. Imagine what another $100 or $150 to that will do to speed up your journey. It will do a lot. Let's say you're one of those people that couldn't even pay for a $400 emergency. 2 months of this, $220, you could cover it. It is the difference between being on the right track for financial freedom and not. And so that is my 2 cents on that. So when's the last time you did an audit on your credit card and looked at your payments? You've heard me say this a lot. I say this in my other videos as well. You need to look at your credit cards. You do. That's the most important part of it. So I will stop talking about that. I will do my eyeliner, and I want you to think about, when's the last time you really looked hard at what is on your credit card statements and did a self-audit on that. And it's really important that you do it. You can hire people, you can hire a money coach or whatever to do it. But I think it's really important you do it, because you're the one that's spending, and you're the one that can really look at what you're spending your money on and decide, is that what I want to spend my money on? Because you have a right to spend money on things. You just have to be consciously making that decision that that's what you want to spend your money on. That's my 2 cents on that. So I'm going to take a little bit of that brown shadow from the palette here, this brown shadow. Just take a little bit on this 205 brush and just put a little bit under here, about halfway. I kind of like doing it before concealer, because then I can clean it up with concealer if I went too heavy on it. But that's kind of a nice alternative than having to put liner down there. And then for the waterline, for the kind of neutral or nude waterline, I'm going to use this Soshe eye brightener pencil, waterline pencil in champagne on here. And I've used this before. So, but that $220 a month, that is a lot every year to be spending on purchases that make no difference for you. So I just think that that's a really important topic. And, this is, as, when I was reading about this topic, this is a silent cash flow killer. It really is. This $220 a month is, they did the calculation. Great. $2,600 a year. $2,600 a year. Was it last week or the week before, we were talking about how the average person who got a tax refund got, I think it was $3,400 a year. I mean, if you got a tax refund and then you save this, man, we're starting to save some money. Now, we talked about how people with that tax refund went and spent it on, they don't even remember what they spent it on, which is a problem. But, you're letting this unallocated capital bleed out of a company. If you were a company, this would be a big problem. So you kind of have to plug the leaks. And by looking at your credit card regularly and doing an audit saying, I'm not paying this anymore, then, you're plugging those leaks. You're taking care of business. You wouldn't just let, your plumbing leak and leak and leak, and you'd be fine with it. So that's my opinion on that. All right, let's move on to, we're going to move on to bronzer. This is the Lumi Bronze and the shade 110 Toasted. Very pretty bronzer. I know everybody's excited about this one. It's very creamy, which is really nice. So you can kind of just go directly on the face with it. I've been playing with my bronzer. I've been doing that underpainting thing a little bit. That's been interesting, actually, because then I don't have to put as much foundation on, which has been good. Oh, I probably got that on my earring. Oh, well. It is what it is. All right, and then I'm going to take this Morphe sculpting brush. This is the S200, I think it is. Yeah, S200 brush. And just kind of get that in, get that blended out. Okay, so let's do the last topic, which is the mid-year confidence check. So again, you're going to hear a lot of mid-year stuff, all these companies, and they haven't even really started to push them out yet. They usually come out after 4th of July mainly. Okay, so fresh data from the Employee Benefit Research Institute shows that the aggregate worker confidence has gone down, has dipped to 61% of people feel like they're confident in their retirement strategy. And that's the lowest point in nearly a decade. So, people might say, why is this happening? Why are people worried about this? The markets are doing great, and, people are getting a tax refund and all that stuff. Well, the reason people are worried about this is that they are worried that things are just going to keep getting more and more expensive. That's what we've seen, is the cost of everything is going up, including benefits, including all that. It's why the Employee Benefit Research Institute is the one that did this study, because they're hearing that this has been a problem for many people. So I'm going to go in with blush today with this Clinique. This is called the Cheek Pop Black Honey Pop. Now, I had the one in lavender. I think I did that on here. And that one didn't have a lot of color in it. It's a nice kind of topper, but it didn't have a lot of color. So I'm going to take the e.l.f. blush brush here and just, let's see if this is a dense enough brush. It is. So these are not the most pigmented blushes in the world, but I do think it's a really pretty, it's a gorgeous color, and this is the Black Honey that Clinique is, kind of touting everywhere. This seems to be their thing that they do. But yeah. So, okay. That seems good for right now. Then we're going to go in with concealer. This is a mini, obviously, of the Creaseless Creamy Tarte Concealer. I got a mini from Ipsy, I think. And, oh, wait, hold on. Okay, this is the Dalba multi-stick. I'm going to put that on first, because that works really well with kind of thicker concealers, which that one is. And I'm just going to let that sit for a second. And I always forget about that one. So, okay, I need to do my brows, so I'll let that sit while I do my brows. So this is the Benefit 12-Hour Brow Setter. You've seen this a million times. It's it's clear brow gel. It's got kind of a weird bristles, but it's a really good brow gel. No flaking or anything. But are you one of these people that are worried that you're not going to be able to retire the way that you thought you were going to be able to? Many people are getting more and more concerned because of prices going up. That is not shocking to me that that is happening, that people have that sentiment. Then I'm going to go in with the NYX Professional Microbrow Pencil. This is in black. Might be a little too dark for me, but it works really well. So if you have those concerns, what can you do about it, right? Because you could give up, which I do not recommend, obviously. I think you need to keep pushing forward. There's always a way to get to financial freedom. If you want it bad enough, there's always a way to get there. So what can we do about it? What can we control? We can control our spending and our savings, and we can control where we put our money and the amount of risk we take on it, right? So if you are one of these people who are worried about it, I would say, ask yourself, what is something I can do about it to make sure I take back control of my situation? Where can I save? Maybe it's going through and doing that audit we talked about and saving on some of these digital subscriptions that you're not using. $220 is the average that people are spending on this stuff. Like I said, it was $2,600 a year that you could be putting more towards retirement. Plus, you're controlling your spending. So that's always an option as well. Okay, now I'm going to go in with the Tarte Creaseless Creamy concealer. Is any of these, any concealers creaseless? No. Sorry. That's not possible. But does it crease less? I can't remember, honestly. And I just used this a little while ago, so I don't remember. But we'll find out, right? So this is the BK Beauty Nikki LaRose N16 brush. I believe this is supposed to be for a concealer, but you can use it for lots of different things. I'm going to go in here first. Just kind of take away some darkness in here. The nice thing about this is that it has those bristles. You probably can't see it really that well, but so it really disperses the concealer well, but it also will stay in the area I want it to. It doesn't just go everywhere, which is great. So then I'm going to kind of focus it down here where I have most of my darkness, and then I'll slowly kind of bring it up. Excellent. All right. Then I'm going to set that. So I'm going to take my, setting powder, or what is this called? Slip Tint Undetectable Baked Setting Powder. These names, some of them, I swear. I feel like a prude when I say that, but like Slip Tint, really? Okay. Anyhow, I'm going to spray my my concealer brush with the NUA hyaluronic acid spray that's out there, and just kind of tap that off. And then I'm going to pick some up of the powder, start in my T-zone area. Take a little bit more. Excellent. Okay, perfect. It's a really nice powder. This is a really, really nice powder I've been enjoying. Okay, so, if you are feeling this friction of rising living costs and your financial freedom journey, really consider doing your own audit. And I would say your own audit is really going to be looking at credit cards, looking at the amount that you're spending. So that's the credit cards, right? Where you're spending your money, where are some areas you might want to cut back on, making sure you have your emergency fund in place, because that's going to help offset any unforeseen things that happen that can really derail you. And then really looking at simple math, where do I want to save to? How much more can I save? Because the way to combat people say, well, the investments, the rate of return will combat, the increase of pricing. And yes, typically the last couple of years, at least, not 2022, but the last couple of years, the markets have performed more than inflationary rates, even the higher inflationary rates, but to just rely on the market to take care of that and not look at saving more is really going to be an issue for you, because you will have years in the markets where they're flat, where they don't perform great, where they really don't perform great. And those average out to something a little different. So you do want to make sure that you are focusing on the things you can control, and increasing your savings rate every year is one of those things that we don't talk about, but you really should do. Now, by how much, that's going to depend on your situation. Where are you saving? What is what's the rate of return typically there? All those different things are going to make a big difference. So, okay, let's go in with mascara. I'm going to put actually just a little bit more blush here. Gets kind of taken down sometimes by the concealer. All right. This is the Kosas Soulgazer mascara. And while I take this out, it has an interesting wand, kind of one of those hourglass, but it's a smaller hourglass one. This have been very impressed with as a concealer, or not concealer, mascara. I've been very impressed with. I'm going to go in with this Refer, with this. Okay, got it. Sorry, my little timer's going crazy. All right, and then I'm going to use this Refer eyelash curler. I kind of jump between this one and the heated one. Okay. And I'm going to take the mascara, do a little bit on the bottom. I have been very impressed with this mascara, though. It's a really good one. And that says a lot. I'm not impressed with most mascaras, to be honest. So I've been really, really impressed with this. And nobody talks about this one, which is crazy to me, but they don't. So it just seems to deposit the perfect amount of product. It doesn't get clumpy, and it definitely gives me some volume, mostly length. And I've just been really impressed. It's not hard to get off for not being a tubing mascara. And I've just been super impressed. And as you probably see here, I don't put on just tons and tons of coats on my eyelashes. I just don't have the patience for that. But look at that's significant for the amount of product I really put on. And I don't dip back in either, because I found when I dip back in, it's just too much product. So I highly recommend it. Plus, as a company, okay, so I always tell you, I will tell you when I've had good experiences with them. I ordered something. I think it was during the holidays. I was ordering their little 3-pack of their blushes, because their blushes are some of my favorites. And so I'd ordered their, holiday 3-pack because there was 2 new shades in there. I gifted out the repeat shade that I had. And they sent this to me for free. It was a full size and everything. I was expecting at least a mini, travel size, but no, it's the full size. So I think that's nice. And they do that consistently. They were having I think they call it the summer sale, where they have the new blush sticks that are very nice. If you haven't tried them, they're excellent. And they've just been an impressive company to order from. They were a little late on sending out my order, and they gave me a 10%, maybe it was 20% coupon, just for saying sorry. I mean, it's just amazing what they do. So we're done with makeup. I'm going to do lips in a second, but I'm going to set it with the one size on until dawn setting spray. I am going to be outside later today, and it is summertime, so that definitely doesn't smell as bad as the L'Oreal one. I just had to get rid of that. It was a good setting spray. It just was driving me crazy though. The smell is just awful. And then I'm going to go in with First Date from Ellis Brooklyn. This is their perfume body mist. Again, great staying power with this formula. I love it. So smells like dates. Excellent. Then we're going to go in. Did I miss anything? Oh, I did. Oh, well, hopefully this works okay. I do need to go in with some bronzer to set. This is the Makeup by Mario. What is this called? Transforming Skin Protector. So I just go in a little bit just to set this, and it does have kind of a pearliness at the top, so it's almost like a highlighter. Hopefully that works okay with the setting spray. Oops. Okay, then I'm going to finish up with the Morphe liner. This is in Makeup. What is this called? Makeup Talk. So that is the color. Very pretty, kind of a pinky brown color. I'm going to wipe off the remnants of the rock lip treatment. And then I'll go in the little powder. You know what? I'll do this. And just powder the lip line a bit. It does help with longevity, I've found. Go back in. Great. Okay. And then I'm going to go in with the Violette FR Lip Nectar. This is in, oh gosh, I had the worst time. It will be in the notes of what color it is. I had the worst. I had to put my glasses on and put on extra lights just to see it. This is their hydrating lip tint. And even though the outside is super scary, it really doesn't come off. Too dark. All right, I think we finished it all. I went long again, but what else is new? I may put a little bit of this hydrating spray on. I have found putting that on as like a finishing touch has just made my skin not look as crusty in the middle of the day, especially if I don't have time to make it look pretty again with touch-ups. So, all right. So we talked about a lot of different things. I know I went on a lot about the 401k, private equity and private credit, but I think that is a really important important thing to discuss because that could be hitting your 401k. I don't know when. I know the president did an executive order, I thought, but now that they've got a bipartisan thing going through Congress, I don't know where this is at, honestly. This stuff seems to take a really long time go through Congress. So I don't know when this will hit, but I just want you to be aware that that's going to be available, or that's going to be coming possibly. And then, the kind of two very similar things, these kind of mid-year confidence check. How are you feeling about retirement? Where do you feel about, retirement / financial freedom, whatever you want to call it? How do you feel about that? How is that working for you? And have you really looked at things this year? This year has gone by super fast. And so take a look at everything and see how it is all looking for you. And that means going through your credit card and getting rid of subscriptions. And I don't care if it's $5, get rid of it, because that is, $60 a year. Would you just take $60 and throw it away? Throw it on the ground and say, I hope somebody else gets it? I mean, actually, that'd be more charitable, right? $60 throwing it down. Somebody else could use that money and save it. This is just going to some probably mindless company that, yeah, they have a right to make that money. But, if you're not using their service, they're not providing it for you. So anyhow, that is my two things this week. Keep an eye out. Look at your 401k if you haven't for a while. What are you invested in? Will you want to incorporate this stuff? How does that fit with your risk? But the other thing is to do your confidence check. See how you feel about things. And, this is a good time to do it. Summertime is busy, but it's a great mid-year point check-in. And this is why all these reports come out around this time. So with that being said, as I said, I have a little teaser. Next week, we're going to be talking about all the IPOs coming out, including SpaceX, what to look out for, how to react, how should you participate if you should, depending on your risk, of course, all that kind of stuff. So that is our teaser for next week. So until next time, be safe, be strong, be kind to one another, and we will see you next week. Have a great video. Have a great week. And hopefully it calms down a bit, for me at least. If you're in that situation, hopefully it calms down for you too. So have a great week. Bye-bye.